What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Schoch Factor Podcast, where I, Stephen Schoch, will be taking you through the world of college baseball with one of my good friends, one of my mentors, Michael Patrick Rooney. Coach Rooney, how are we doing this week?
Stephen, doing very well. Last weekend, I was in the great state of New Jersey at a high school coaches clinic, got my jersey fixed. That was amazing. Um, in my travels, I listened to your podcast with the great Derek Bender of Coastal Carolina. I do have a follow-up question for your interview with the great Derek Bender. May I proceed?
Absolutely.
So I've never been to Coastal's Park. I've seen it on TV a million times. It looks awesome. And I've always heard the boardwalk referenced. And now when I'm thinking of a boardwalk, I'm thinking of Ocean City, New Jersey. I'm thinking of Sea Isle City, New Jersey, skee ball, arcade games, t-shirts where you get weird stuff printed on them. Is it like that type of boardwalk, or what type of boardwalk are we talking here?
So that's a great question. When we do the facility tour, you'll get to see it in the flesh, live, and fully tested, supporting my 250-pound frame. It is a boardwalk. There aren't carnival games, but I love where your head's at. I think there should
Right.
be carnival games on it
Yes, there
because
should be.
that is just a phenomenal suggestion. There is a sand pit for kids to play in. So
Okay.
there is that. There's that much. But it's a boardwalk material, so you get the planks all throughout the outfield, which
Love
it's
that.
about, I would say it's about 15 feet in the air. So you can hang out above both bullpens, and it's only about half the width of the bullpen. So you can see down, you can see all the action.
Oh,
It
really cool.
yeah, I love their stadium. It's the first stadium I ever played a college baseball game in. It was not a good baseball game, but a college baseball game nonetheless.
So your first college game of your life was the Dogs at No, this was the Nears, the Mountaineers of App State at Coastal.
Yeah, so my first ever college weekend series was baseball at the beach at Coastal Carolina because they always play the first game of the season at Coastal. They start at 11 a.m. in that tournament on February, I believe, 17th or
Nice.
16th, depending on the year. But that year it was App State, Coastal Carolina, UVA, and ODU.
Ooh,
So
loaded.
yeah, it was a really good tournament to kick things off. I actually pitched against ODU as well. That was my second outing where I came in from the bullpen, and the first thing I did was do an inside move, pick a guy off at second base, which coincidentally 5 years later I did the same thing, just on a little bit bigger of a stage. So that was really cool. But yeah, my first ever collegiate strikeout was against the 2016 Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, who went on to win the College World Series. My last ever pitch was against the team that ended up winning the College World Series in
Oh my God.
2021. So,
You're like one of those magical wands or something, Steven. Like you if a team interacts with Steven Schoch, they win the national title. I love that.
and I'm not just saying this because I'm always going around on my facility tours asking if the coaches want me to throw live ABs just to scratch that itch again. I am not saying, full disclosure, I'm not saying that to encourage their thoughts on that. But if that's what they do, that's what they do.
Hey, one follow-up point, Steven. So, when you say inside move, do you mean like the wheel move, or do you mean like both feet off the mound, spin at second base? Which move do you mean?
Wheel move, so with the leg lift. That
Yeah,
one's, if you're a weird arm slot guy, it's really easy to get people with it because they
I
focus on
know.
your top half.
Yeah.
And that's, you just make the top half identical. What I would do to make it really like work well is I would pull the ball out of my glove and pat like I always would when I was delivering to the plate. But then you just put your foot down and throw a second.
Oh, love it. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Those slot jokers have very dangerous inside moves at second base. Very deceptive.
you got to control the running game. You know, it's
Yeah,
what wins games.
I love that. That and wobs.
Yeah, wobs. You got to always wipe your friends' butts. It's very important.
What is the O? What's the O stand for in wob again?
Wipe others' butts.
Wipe other spots. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I would have gone WFB, but sometimes you're leaving guys who you don't really
Yeah.
like that much. It
No.
could just be others.
Others.
Well,
Yeah.
But moving along into this episode, talking about inside moves, talking about things that win championships, I wanted to do a way too early 8 for Omaha. We did one back in June, but that was just a graphic. No transfer portal action had happened. And
Mm-hmm.
truth be told, we had a lot to learn about how these ball clubs were going to shape up. There were a lot of guys who got new faces that we think are really going to make an impact. So we wanted to do kind of an updated R8 for Omaha with explanation. So Coach Rooney's got 8 teams. I got 8 teams. Do you want to go alternate style? I feel like we'll probably have a few that overlap, and that's okay because I
Mm-hmm.
brought extras to the party.
Me too.
Truth be told, I brought my 11 for Omaha
I
because
brought my 14, my catorce for Omaha. Is that 14 in Spanish? Catorce?
yeah,
Let's
once doce,
somebody
trece,
tweet us.
catorce,
Okay,
quince.
I got a catorce para Omaha. That's what I got.
That's a good bunch. Once we expand the field to 72, that's when we
Oh,
expand, of course, our Omaha field to catorce as well.
yes, bueno. All
So
right, let's go back and forth, Stephen. I like that idea. And if we overlap, we overlap. Let's it's all about conviction in this thing.
exactly. So I'll let you go first, as you do have a little bit more than me.
Okay, so I'm not gonna. Well, I'll mention all 14. I'm gonna make myself pare it down to 8 as we go. And so on the West Coast, I'm very convicted on 3 teams: Oregon State, UC Irvine, and UC Santa Barbara. I think all 3 are Omaha teams. I can only pick 2 though because they're going to be matched up against each other in the postseason. I'm almost certain of it. So my first selection will be Oregon State. I believe in karma and all those things, and they've been left for dead in the conference realignment uh, catastrophe. So the Beavs are going to Omaha this year as their last year in the Pac-12.
I love that choice. I mean, Travis Bazana, that guy deserves to play in Omaha. But you're right. It's like everybody left the party, and Oregon State was just like, no, good captains go down with their ships. They were still hanging out in the Pac-12, and
Yeah,
now, as you mentioned in your fall report, they're homeless. They
yeah,
they need somebody. They need a conference. We'll play
yeah.
baseball for a conference.
I love that. Just to be clear, Stephen, they're not just a rom com. Like this is not just a feel good fictional story. Oregon State, like you mentioned, Travis Bazana, they are legitimately excellent. They have a great team. It's a very complete team. They're very very balanced.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I really like about them is like they have a veteran pitching staff, but in a weird way. Like each one of their main guys, I feel like, aside from AJ Lattery, has like missed time due to injury or due to just having to sit out from one reason or another. Like we got Jacob Matz, who he was exceptional in 2022, I believe, or the
Mm-hmm.
2023 season, but
But yeah,
he
both. But 2022 is when he was really good as a freshman. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, and so he's got a lot to prove, and the pitching staffs that have a lot to prove are the pitching staffs that often end up showing us a lot.
I like it. Love where your head's at.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with an obvious choice. We got Wake Forest, who they felt like a runner up in 2023 just because they were in the same pool as LSU, and they gave us that incredible series against them, which was so cool to see. It felt like it was about more than just Wake Forest versus LSU. I mean, you get Rhett Lauder versus Paul Skeens. You get the ACC's best versus the SEC's best. That was just such an awesome series, and they got a taste of Omaha, and Coach Walter, he's looking for the whole thing. And I think they're going to have a really good case of getting back there this year, where sure they lost some key pieces like Rhett Lauder and Brock Wilkin, but then they add guys like Chase Burns from Tennessee and Seaver King from Wingate, who I feel like they're going to pick off right where Brock and Rhett left off with this Wake Forest team.
I got a tough. It's a great call. They're so good. They're in momentum. Very talented. I have a tough choice to make there. I do worry about Wake Forest depth, Stephen. Like if a couple injuries were to happen, they lost. I pretend like they had no injuries last year. They had injuries, right? Like Teddy McGraw was lost for the year. He was going to be in the rotation, and Nick Kurtz they didn't have for the final game, which was terrible. But man, Wake Forest is in my catorce. I don't know if they're in my ocho, but stay tuned.
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
the thing with them is like, right now, I might not know who their relief pitchers are, but I think that's what they do. They aim for like recruiting those guys out of the portal, like Cole Rowland from Dartmouth, who it's okay. No one knows about this kid yet, but we know a few things that are going to make everybody know about him this year. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm always comfortable with them.
Absolutely. Oh, it's a hey, they could be the preseason number one team. No question about it. So if I don't pick them, I'm literally not picking the preseason number one team, which feels like bad policy. And Cole Rowland, if you believe weird wins, then Cole Rowland's your guy because he's a beautiful person. We love him. Steven, I'm gonna finish my West Coast. I just don't know who the second best team in the Pac-12 is, so I'm gonna pass. I'd like that second tier in the Pac-12, but I don't have a team selected. It's congested. So I'm going to make myself select UC Irvine or UC Santa Barbara. The Eaters have an incredible position player group. They literally have every single at bat returns, every single one. They've got Joe Ayama, they've got Anthony Martinez, their shortstop Woody Hadeen. He's not even every one of those at bats because he missed all of last year. UC Santa Barbara, though, has the pitching. Matt Ager was on Team USA. Tyler Bremner's been up to 98. So when in doubt, if I have to pick between pitchers or hitters, I am going to pick pitchers. So give me UC Santa Barbara to Omaha.
I like that. I like that. I was leaning a little bit towards UC Irvine just because Joe Oyama is going to be one of the most universally
Amazing.
loved players in college baseball for a long time. When I was interviewing Derek Bender, I asked him his favorite friend he's played against, and he said Joe Oyama, and he was like, I have never talked to him outside of being on first base when he's on first base, and he's just a hard person not to like. So
Yes, so
I,
good.
I'm with you on that one, but good pitching beats good hitting. That's
That's
just
what
the
they
way it
say.
is.
That's what they
Watch
tell us.
Watch your favorite player hit batting practice. Count how many times he gets out. It's a lot. Hitting's hard.
It's true. It
Hitting's
is
hard.
true.
Anytime I was nervous before an outing, I would watch the opposing team hit batting practice and be like, okay, this coach is getting them out when he's trying to find their barrel. I
Yeah.
can I can maybe get some outs.
I love that. I love where your head's at. That's beautiful.
Now for the next one, I'm also going the easy route because you know what? Unlike the TCU's The Grind video talking about the salmon going upstream, I'm not. I'm going downstream. I'm taking the easy path. I'm going with LSU.
Yeah.
I think, they lost two superstars last year. And that's not even going to be something they bat an eye about because they have the type of program where the next guy up is ready to be a superstar. And I think Paxton Kling is going to be that guy this year where, they bring in Mac Bingham from Arizona who hit 360 with 10 home runs for him last year. He's an insane player. You bring that guy and say, hey, I want you to take our star freshman spot in center field or wherever it may be. That iron is going to sharpen iron. They're going to be two of the best players in the SEC this year. They have so much pop just throughout their whole lineup. And what I really love about them too is the depth they have at the catching position. Just because you have Alex Milazzo, who he came to LSU to be a great defender. He slipped, fell. Now he's a great hitter too. Of course, he broke his fibia, I believe, last season in Omaha, but he was still a great teammate. He's healthy now. He's ready to go. And then you get Brady Neal, who that kid rakes every baseball that is thrown at him. Unless he's receiving it, he is either putting into the bleachers or a gap for an extra base hit. And Hayden Travinsky is just a guy who he's seen it all. It feels like he's one. It's like he absorbed Cade Beloso in a good way, and he brings that veteran experience with him.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's hard to argue with that pick. Hayden Stravinsky, his mustache was so good they made a T-shirt about it. So, I mean, what else is
That
there to say?
and those shirts were all over Omaha. He did a good job with it.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, if you could send an XL of that shirt to Prescott, Arizona, I will wear it. Send in a large too. My wife J-Ro will wear one too. There's no question. Those are amazing. Number 3 for me, Steven, I am going to make myself pick. Iowa and Indiana are going to both have Omaha-caliber teams next year. Both have awesome teams. Both nearly got to super regionals. Both were in regional finals last year. I guess I got to stay with my rule. Iowa's got the pitching, Brody Brecht, and Indiana's got the hitting. I'm going to pick Iowa. Give me Iowa in Omaha.
I really like that choice. Of course, we got the big bopper Blake Guerin at first base, who I am excited to watch that kid get in the lineup. I know last season he was stuck behind. I am blanking on their first baseman's name. Coach Rooney. Who was
Oh,
Iowa's first baseman
he
last
was
year?
from
He
he
was
was a
from
really
Wofford.
it was get he's from Wofford. Yes, yes, yes. All right, we'll Google that while we're looking up.
Yeah, well,
I the way I remembered it was like get jiggy with it or something. All right, he's gone.
oh, Doherty. Brendan Doherty.
Brendan
Who
Brendan Dorigi. There you go.
there we go. It was the get jiggy with it. I knew it would come back to me. He has a cool name,
Yes,
but
good player.
now Blake has first base open for him. I think he's going to do well, but Zach Volkner was really impressive when we saw him at Round Rock, and then I saw him
Yeah,
pitch in the Cape, and it was undeniable. So I love that pick.
love it.
Now, next up, I'm going with Arkansas. I really think Arkansas is going to have one of the best pitching staffs in the nation just because they have so much opportunity for development there. I know we talk about Wake Forest pitching a lot because they have the pitching lab that develop guys better than most other schools. Well, Arkansas has a pitching lab too. They have Matt Hobbs, who came from Wake Forest and has a ton of pitching experience. And I think this year is going to be the year where they really tap into that. Hagen Smith has always been incredible for him, but now he's thrown 97 to 100. Sign me up for that. Not to hit that, but just to watch it because hitting that would be dangerous. Brady
Left-handed.
Tiger, like that is scary. It's coming in on the hands. That's not happening for me. I'm out. I'm running the other way. It's going to be like the guy with the sword in the Benchwarmers movies. So
Yeah, Hagen Smith's throwing 100 from the left side. He could be a top 10 pick. And you're right, Brady Tigert's his breaking ball is so violent, like you can hear it. You don't even need to see it. That is crazy spin.
yeah, it just moves like crazy. And then they get Mason Molina from Texas Tech, who you look at his numbers and you look at the way he performs. He's a big leaguer just in college for some reason right now. Last season with Texas Tech, he had a 3.67 ERA, just working in the 91 to 93 range. But he's got insane pitch ability. So I'm really excited to check them out this season.
Yep, man. And Will McIntyre's back, and he's been a great weekend starter for them. He started in a super regional. He's like their Tuesday guy right now. So I think Peyton Stovall has a bounce back season. Wakiva Aloy, who they got from Sacramento State, Hawaiian shortstop. I think he's a great player. You talked me into him, Steven. My fourth team will be Arkansas. I like it. I'm in. I'm in on the
Look at
Hogs.
that. I completely forgot the best part
Sold.
of my sales pitch, which was the Sac State transfer, hitting 14 home runs and 376 as a freshman. Are you kidding me?
Good player.
What are they feeding these kids these days?
I like it. I've got 5 SEC teams I got to pare down, and you just sold me on Arkansas. So now I get really some work to do. Who's your number 4, Steven?
So number 4, this one, it's time. It's been too long. It needs to happen. ECU baseball needs to make it to Omaha. And this, again, could be recency bias from my travels. But in speaking with Cliff Godwin, the way he approaches the game, the way he approaches his program, I think he does a lot of things right. And I think this year is the year that they stop knocking on the door and they finally kick it down. You got Jacob Jenkins Cohort, who's hitting 294 last season with 9 bombs. They have a multitude of guys returning who hit over 300, like Jacob Starling, Carter Cunningham, Justin Wilcoxon. They get too many hits for it not to work out this season. And I think pitching wise this is going to be one of their better pitching staffs where they have Trey Savage, who's the veteran Friday guy who knows how to get outs. And then you got a young guy like Ethan Norby, Connor Norby's little brother, who he's got winning in his bloodline. He just hasn't pitched at the college level yet. I think there's a lot of pieces falling into place for ECU, and it's going to trend towards Omaha.
Yep. Trey Savage is a Boyertown Bear. That's way suburban Philly. They had a high school / American Legion baseball stadium, Steven, like 35 years ago before you even knew there could be a baseball stadium if it wasn't for the MLB. So, But I'm gonna say this, Stephen, on East Carolina. I've picked them like I feel like every year. So I feel like it's my fault. And so I'm going to say right now, unequivocally, East Carolina is not going to Omaha. If you're an East Carolina fan, feel free to buy concert tickets for June, plan weddings, whatever. You're not going. This is Mike Rooney saying that East Carolina will not be in Omaha. And so go ahead and make plans, and let's see if that doesn't work better. There you
Yeah,
go, Steven.
it's got to. I love the
Yeah.
reverse psychology.
Yeah. It's been my fault. I can't bear that burden any longer. East Carolina, it's not happening for you. I apologize. Steven, I need to pick an ACC team. Wake Forest, Clemson, Virginia are the three teams that are very top of mind for me. There are others, Duke, obviously. There's anybody from that league can go. Give me Clemson. I love Cam Kennerella. Um, Tremendous season last year. Eric Bakich, what's not to like? Jimmy Bellinger, Nick Schnabel, great staff. Coach Leggett. Give me Clemson, the Clemson Tigers.
I love that. And they're one of the schools. They had a two-sport athlete who says, hey, you know what? This year I'm focusing only on baseball. I love when guys choose baseball over other sports. That makes me happy because it's a great sport. Great livings can be made from this sport. And I think when he's focusing just on baseball, I mean, last season he was already insane. He had a ton of stolen bases, a high batting average. Now he's solely focused. That was when he was splitting time, half his brain power on baseball. Sign me up.
Good
Sign me
athlete.
up.
Yeah, it's a pretty good athlete. The Clemson never offered Coach Rooney a football scholarship, so that's any type of context for the level of athlete Will Taylor is.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy to watch. Now,
Yes.
for my next one, this one is just the story makes too much sense. I want Coastal Carolina to make it back to
Ooh.
Omaha in Gary Gilmore's final years. Just because, or final year. He doesn't have multiple final years. There's only one. There can only be one. So, unless you're Brett Favre, who then every other year is the
You can have final years. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Final
that is one way to go out on your own terms. You just got to keep coming back a few times. So, but I think just with their history of being one of the few mid majors to really make waves in the college baseball world, win the College World Series, my apologies, being one of the grit factories to go to
Ooh,
Omaha, win the College World Series. I rescind my mid major comment. My bad, Coastal. We're working on that.
like it.
But they added a lot of prospects that I'm really excited about. Like they got Sam Antonashi, who is the NJCAA D2 Player of the Year after hitting 515 at his JUCO with 14 bombs, and he's super fast, one of the fastest players in the nation according to Derek Bender, who's their catcher, who was a finalist for the Dick Hauser Award last year. He hit 341, 19 home runs. There's just too much to like about Coastal this year in, Coach Gilmore's final year.
I like it. We always worry about the grit factories losing players in the portal, but they kept Derek Bender. They kept I got to figure out, is it Caden Bodine or Caden Bodine? I think it's Bodine. What do you think, Steven?
It's Bodine. Bodine.
Bodine. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So, you heard rumors about that. They did lose Liam Doyle, the freshman pitcher, and that's disappointing. But I'm with you. They're one of the grit factories that is just always dangerous. I'm not picking them. If I had to pick a Sun Belt team, I'd be tempted to pick Troy, but
Mm,
they might be too much of a hipster pick right now.
I like
That's
that pick.
Yeah, Troy's good. Yeah, Skylar Meade doing an awesome job. All right, so I think I got to pick another SEC team, and I'm going to pick LSU. They're all the reasons you mentioned. They're loaded. I would say this about LSU: they've got a bunch of really good returning players. They had one if not the best freshman class in the country come in. Cam Johnson, the lefty freshman, 6'5", throws 100. How do you get him through the draft? I don't know. And then, they had an incredible transfer class, Gage Jump, Luke Coleman. I mean, they're just loaded for bear. So, yeah, I think LSU will be back in Omaha. Give me the Tigers.
That's a good choice. And then we didn't even mention Cade Woods. Throwing 93 to 94, going to be one of the best closers in the nation in my opinion. So
He's
I'm
filthy.
excited to
Yep.
watch him.
Great arm.
And Yeah, no, like there's just so many bright spots to talk about with this LSU roster. It's insane.
Yeah, well said. Their position, hey, it's weird. Their position player group is got some things to work on, but they also have Tommy White, and they're pitching. Like it's weird. LSU's the headliners are on the mounds mostly. That's not like on the brand of LSU, but don't kid yourself. They're not going to go into any weekend series where they feel like they're the underdog.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited to see how long into the season till it shifts to where we're talking about their hitting more so than their pitching, because I know that point is going to come at
Mm-hmm.
some point. And that's not saying their pitching is going to be terrible. That's just saying the hitting is going to step up, I feel like.
Yep. Steven, I only have two spots left. Do you have three left? Three left.
I
Goodness.
Oh, yeah, I do, because Oregon State, I was going to say them,
Go
but
Beavs.
I got safety schools so I don't overlap too much, and then I can talk about a greater audience, which I love doing.
I
So,
like it.
along that vein, I think Texas is going to be back. I think Texas will be in Omaha this year. I Porter Brown's coming back. He hit 323 with 12 home runs. They're again just returning so much production in their lineup. Peyton Powell, a utility guy, hit 339 with 10 home runs last year. Then Jared Thomas hitting 321 last season. I think there's just so many bright spots just in the lineup, but also it's Tanner Witt's time to shine on the mound. I think we've heard about him for so long, and he's kind of had injuries, kind of been up and down, but I think this season he puts it together, and that motivates the rest of the team to go, we gotta keep watching Tanner do his thing. We gotta keep winning games. And then LeBaron Johnson Jr. has just been like as consistent as anything has ever been for Texas. I feel like he is. Whenever I've tuned into a big Texas baseball game, he's been on the mound. It's been like the seventh inning, and only a run or two has been given up, if any. So I like their odds.
LBJ, LeBaron Johnson Jr. He's vicious. My only concern with him is like I read a report today where it said his stuff is super steep and it's a compliment. Like, and he's a hard thrower too, but he's probably 6'5" at least, and it's over the top. So I'm telling you, Steven, it looks like he's dropping the ball straight down into the strike zone. And so I do, and then he throws a slider and a split. I do worry about strikes, because his pitches are so vertical that. But that said, when he does throw strikes, it's unhittable. Like it looks like the most miserable at bat of your entire life. So gotta love it. Ooh, that Texas a good pick. All right, so Steven, I gotta pick an SEC East team. Not gotta, but I'm going to. Florida, Tennessee, and Vandy's where my head's at. I'm going to stay convicted on Vandy. I know they've lost in back-to-back regionals. It's so amazing how Vandy's such a good program that when they lose in regionals, we look at it like, oh my gosh, they're just not themselves. Like making regionals is so easy. But I like Vandy. I know people pick at their position player group. I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be older. Ethan McIlvain is a freshman lefty that throws a million miles an hour as well. Carter Holton is really important. He's got to be healthy for this pick to work for me. But I'm going to bank on him being healthy. So give me Vandy.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. And you're dead on with the whole regional disappointment, because everybody
Yeah.
makes it this far. It's like, no, that's just the Vandy standard, which you love to see it.
Yes.
Now, moving on, I am gonna pick Florida. You toyed with it. I'm gonna full on do it. I
Like
think
it.
they were runner up last year. They lost Wyatt Langford, which is a big loss. Don't get me wrong. But then you add Colby Shelton, who hit 300 with 25 bombs as a freshman at Alabama. And behind the plate, you add Brody Donay, who he is built like a door frame. Last season, in 123 at bats, he hit 12 home runs, which you do the math on that. That's a pretty good return rate. 10% of the time you're hitting home runs.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so I just think with the talent they have, Cade Curlin's coming back. He hit 240 or 297 with 17 doubles last season, 17 home runs. There's just so much production that's coming back, and then I think it'll be interesting. You get Jack Caglione in the starting role as well, but the big question is, who do you kind of pair with him in that role? Like, I know they talked about pulling Cade Fisher up and having him be a starter again, and that's something that has worked. But then you have that last weekend spot, and that's kind of where the question mark is. But when your options are Brandon Neely or a freshman named Liam Peterson who's thrown 98 miles an hour, I like your odds.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Florida will lead the country in home runs. Like they're going to hit literally 10,000 home runs. I just, yeah, like I'm a little light on their pitching. It's going to be, their pitching's not going to be bad by any stretch, but it's, they lost good pitch. They lost good arms from last year. So, boy, that's a good choice. So I need to pick, oh my gosh, I have to pick my eighth team, don't I? How many have you done your eight, Stephen? Oregon State is your eighth team. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were. They were.
Okay. All right, so here's where I'm at. I don't have a Big 12 team, which feels terrible. So TCU is the team I like in that league. Texas is a great pick too. TCU, Wake Forest, I do not have selected. Virginia, I don't have selected. Florida and Tennessee. I got to go one of those teams. I already have three SEC teams. I'm just not feeling four SEC teams this year, which is so dumb because that league has won 5 of the last 6 national championships. So Virginia, Wake Forest, TCU, Virginia, Wake Forest, TCU, Florida, Tennessee. I'm going with Wake Forest. I talked myself into them. Give me Wake Forest. Too much momentum, too good. I am worried about injuries, but I like their team. I don't like their team. I love their team. Give me the Deeks.
They're a good team to love, and that's a good choice. All of the candidates you mentioned in that speech were phenomenal. I particularly, it was a tough one not to say Virginia, but I'm sure people are tired of me hearing me anytime I have the opportunity to pick something. Picking Virginia, so I wanted to give them a fresh perspective because in the preseason we'll act like that. But come season time, I'm probably just picking Virginia for everything. I love them. Ethan Anderson got even better. Griff O'Farrell's great. Jay Woolfolk's phenomenal. There's a lot to be excited about there. I want to go through my honorable mentions because I have to. Virginia, of course, was the first honorable mention. But then I think this is going to be the year. Well, I didn't name them for my Omaha 8, so I don't know how convinced I can be when I say this, but I think South Carolina is going to really be something this year just between Ethan Petrie and all the
Love
guys
Ethan
they
Petrie.
got back. It's just they have too much talent to really not be something. They added a lot from the transfer portal. A lot of guys they added are guys that brought energy to their old schools, which I really liked, like Blake Jackson transferring from Charlotte. There were always videos of him being the guy dancing outside the dugout. The team's eating it up. Then Kennedy Jones from UNC Greensboro. He is someone who, in his conference tournament with UNCG, I think he had a home run every other game, which was insane. I think he ended up with like 5 home runs in 8 games, which led to them winning it all. I think they had a triple header the last day, and they took it all to win the conference, which was insanely cool. And he played a huge role in that. So I really like South Carolina this year.
I like it. Yeah, they had a like last year's season for South Carolina was like dog years. Like it was 7 seasons in one. That series they had with LSU was like one of the weekends of the year. And Game 3 I think got rained out. But anyway, yeah, South Carolina they will be very offensive. They are an interesting team. I will say that they are very. I am very intrigued by them.
Yeah, I think the 8 for Omaha is just going to keep getting harder and harder
It's
every year
impossible.
because
It is so hard. Ugh.
the talent just keeps getting so much better, and there's so many more. The quantity of the quality is so much higher.
Well said. The quantity of the quality. That's not easy to verbalize either, Stephen.
I don't know how I pulled that one off, but I'll
You
stumble
blacked
over a
out.
basic sentence later. Yeah, I was in the flow state.
Nice. The
Now,
Phillips curve was your friend.
yeah, I was just riding the Phillips curve to the end of that sentence, if I'm being honest with you.
Well done.
Now, Coach Rooney, did you have any other honorable mentions you wanted to?
Just the ones that as I went through it out loud, I think I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Should we do the players?
Yeah, absolutely. So now it's time for us to do our 3 projected players of the year. just in general, and then we'll do 3 pitchers of the year. But I have a feeling my answer for the first one kind of counts as 2.
Yeah, there is an obvious person there. Let's go 1-for-1, Steven. You go first. Who's your first player of the year candidate?
First guy, Jack Caglione. You know, he adds so much value to a team just by being able to pitch and hit at the same time. Well, not the exact same time because that's impossible. If he could, it would be more like Guinness World Records, most likely to get in that. That's who I'd pick him for. But he can't pitch and then run and hit it. That's impossible. But
Yeah.
honestly, at the rate he's progressing, he's throwing harder. His command has grown. I think anything might be possible for this kid at this point. Like if someone could do it, it would be him, just because he is Jack Caglione. He hit 33 home runs with a 323 batting average while having a 4.34 ERA. I would love to see the relationship between the batting average and the ERA become inverse, where the batting average is higher than the ERA, because I think that's really cool. But I understand that is really hard to do. And if I think someone's going to do it, I think it's Jack.
I like it. By the way, Steven, I have 6 players picked here, so you can't totally snipe me, which is perfect. So if our friends at 643 Charts are listening, these guys are amazing. I'm going to give you a side project. I would like you to give us a season-long simulation where Jack Caglione pitches against Jack Caglione every game. So I need 300 plate appearances, and tell me what Jack's pitching and hitting stats would be. I'm really curious. So I will player of the year candidate. I'll take the obvious one that matches up with Cags, and I'll go Nick Kurtz for Wake Forest. I mean, he could hit 4. He could do like a Lance Berkman season when he was at Rice, like hit 40 home runs with triple digits RBIs. Nick Kurtz is just enormous, left-handed, athletic. He's from Pennsylvania, even though he's not an Eagles fan, and he's from Lancaster, PA, home of the Amish, and he's a great player.
Yeah, what I really like about Kurtz too is last season, he plays the full season. He helps the team get to Omaha. Then he gets injured. He's out for Omaha. The hungry dog eats the most. The hungry dog hunts the most. The hungry dog kills the most. I don't know that exact saying, but the kid is hungry to get back to Omaha, and I think his pursuit of getting back to Omaha is going to be fun to follow this year. I also had him in my list. I had him at number 2, but I will on the fly select someone else, and I'm going to go all the way out to the West Coast and pick up Travis Bazzana, which I feel like I might have just sniped from your list, but
I got 6. I got a half dozen. I'm good.
He brings the electricity. I mean, I say it all the time. Having a great second baseman is a big league thing to have in college baseball, and not too many guys are like, okay, I'm going to be a second baseman. Everybody wants to be a shortstop. He knows his role, and he dominates it.
He's incredible. I mean, he scored 78 runs last year. He hit 11 home runs, 55 RBIs. He had 36 steals. He had 59 walks. I mean, he went off. He was only a sophomore. He's Australian, left-handed hitter. Everything about Travis Bazzana is amazing. I'll stay in that same genre. Actually, I'm going to save this player for you, Steven. I'm going to go Tommy White. I think he's very easy to miss as a player of the year candidate. And he's, if you had one at bat to win a game, Tommy White is tough to pass up of LSU. Like, he's just an absolute rake fest. He's such a good hitter.
He was just so phenomenal his freshman year that it's like everyone got tired of talking about him, and we need to change that. We need to be the ones to change the narrative, because while we were talking about him every day freshman year, it's because he gave us something cool to talk about. And last season, he did a lot of the same. It's easy to, if he hit 0 home runs his freshman year and then had the season he did last season, everybody would be like, oh my God, this kid's incredible. But the simple fact that his freshman year he hits was it 27 or
27? His freshman year, 27 and 74 RBIs. Last year he had an off year last year, 24 home runs and 105 RBIs. I know people poo-poo the RBI stat, but I'm just telling you, That's like a run and a half per game just for showing up to the park. He had 105 RBIs last year. It's ridiculous.
And we talk about Colby Shelton transferring to Florida and how like big of an impact he's going to be because he had 25 home runs last year. Tommy White had one less than that, and it was like, okay,
Whatevs.
it's insane. It's
Yep.
just insane. The standard has changed.
All right, so Steven, I left one right there. I left some chicken on the bone for you. Who are you going with for number 3?
Okay, for number 3, I'm going down to Georgia, where the devil lives, where the devil
Oh,
went
wow.
down to, and I'm taking Charlie Condon. Charlie Condon. I met him when he was playing for Team USA, and he might be the most USAist, I would say. He, Southern guy playing at Georgia. He just seems like the all American, but like if there were a stock photo of Team USA baseball, it would be a picture of Charlie Condon because he is what it means to be an American college baseball player. He hit 386 last season with 25 home runs, 10 doubles, and 67 RBIs. Like he just really makes things happen, and I'm in on him.
I like it. Yeah, he's a great story. He's like this year's Wyatt Langford, where he didn't play as a freshman. He redshirted. He's awesome. Yeah, that's a great pick. I'm mad at myself for not having him on my list. So the obvious choice right now, the fun choice I want to make, Steven, is like a Dakota Jordan, just like off the radar.
Mm.
He hit 10 home runs. He didn't play every day last year. Got 180 plate appearances. He'll probably get 300 this year. I think he's going to go nuts this year. He's like a college baseball Bo Jordan. But JJ Weatherholt's the answer. He's best player in the Big 12 and going to be a top 5 pick. I've seen projections where they have Weatherholt as the number 1 pick overall. He's going to play shortstop. So, man, there's some good choices.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the Weatherholt choice. I think all of these are solid answers. There's not a single one where I'm like, I can't see
Yeah.
that happening. But any one of these guys can catch fire. And that's not to say there's people we've missed that can't do it. It's just these guys are all pretty likely.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good list, man. I there were so many fun, good names I wrote down, but
What
we can
other
only pick
ones do
3.
you have? What
Oh my
honorable
gosh.
mentions do you have? That's the
So I
beauty of
started
the
just
shock factor.
Yeah, I just started having fun with it, Steven. So I actually went off player of the year and just went to my favorite players. And so that included Jacob Kozart, Joe Oyama, Griffo Farrell. ASU's got a really cool short duo, Nick McLean and Ryan Campos, both 5'8" left-handed hitters who are ballers. Carson Bowen, the catcher of TCU. BYU's third baseman Easton Jones, because I coached his dad Mitch. His dad Mitch hit 27 home runs in a season. Danny Dickinson of Utah Valley. Cam Canarella of Clemson. Vance Honeycutt. I mean, gosh, Vance Honeycutt couldn't even make the list.
Coach Ray, I just gotta say I'm proud of you for narrowing it down to 3. I'm impressed you were able to do it. If I'm being honest with you.
Oh my gosh, I just routed off 30 names. There's so many good players. There's too many good
There
players.
are. There's too much talent. And speaking of which, now it's time to talk about talent on the mound.
Oh boy.
Pitcher of the year. How many candidates do you have for pitcher of the year?
I'm safe in case you snipe me. I got 6. I got 5, and then I got a fun pick, but I got 6. I'm good.
Okay, that's beautiful. I'm going to start off with Hagen Smith from Arkansas. I think that's just such an easy pick. I think I'm a coward for taking that pick because he is so good. He's now up to 97 to 100. You kidding me? Again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I'm not getting in that box. He had 109 strikeouts and 71.2 innings pitched last season. That's a pretty nutty K per 9, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's a great pick. That is a great pick. He could be like a crazy draft pick too. Give me Drew Beam of Tennessee, QB1 as they call him. It's not as sexy as stuff as the others, but it's still 92 to 96, an incredible arm, and he just gives Tennessee an unbelievable chance every Friday night. I love Drew Beam.
I love that pick. Back when I played, I would have a coach who would say a lot of the times, he would say a lot of us were pitchers and a lot of us were throwers. Some guys get up, they throw super hard, they just get up there and throw the fastball. Drew Beam is a pitcher. He is like a personification of what my coach was trying to say of he's not just getting up there without a plan. It's like every pitch is thrown setting up the next pitch and the next pitch after that. Like it's impressive what he plays chess out there. He really
Yeah.
does.
Drew Beam is pitchability with stuff. It's the dream.
Now I am going with someone who probably knows Drew Beam and right-handed pitcher at Wake Forest University, Chase Burns. His
Mm-hmm.
freshman year, he had the 2.91 ERA and 80.1 innings pitched, which in the SEC, that is an insane metric. Last season was kind of up and down where he was thrown into the bullpen, being a starter, getting extended, kind of all over the place, and he had a 4.25 ERA. Oh, boo, that's such a bad ERA. I would take a 4.25 ERA in a heartbeat. That would, and like I would frame it, I would put it on the fridge. That's a phenomenal ERA, and he had a lot going on. And now I think just being in the new environment, being in a fresh change of scenery at Wake Forest, I think we're going to see him get really comfortable and get really good.
Yeah, I love that pick. You know what's so interesting is like so many of last year's strikeout leaders are gone. They've moved on to professional baseball. Now Josh Hartle is still in there, and he's probably getting picked here soon. But Chase Burns, I think, could lead the country in strikeouts this year. He just this stuff is so electric, but that's a good pick. I'm actually going to leave Hartle for you if you'd like him, Steven. Give me Brody Brecht, who's another guy that could win
Oh,
the national strikeout title. Now, he has to pitch in cold weather and travel a lot. Iowa's schedule's maybe not as conducive, but Brody Brecht is, former football player at Iowa, was a receiver on scholarship and throws 100. He's got a 90-mile-an-hour slider that is just outrageous, and he's about to be a very wealthy man too.
yeah. I remember at Round Rock, I was sitting behind home plate for the first inning and I watched him throw a slider and I had to leave just because it went against everything I learned in my
Hurt
sixth
your
grade
feelings.
science classes. And I was like, how is this possible? Why, why did he just throw a slider a few miles an hour harder than I ever threw my fastball? Like,
Yeah.
why is he being rude like that?
Yeah,
So
no manners.
and little did I know he was hardly even focused on baseball. He was playing two sports at the time. Now he's fully focused on baseball. We love that. We love that.
Love that. He's awesome.
Now, this one is my wild card. I think this is going to be someone who really blossoms this season. They had a lot of success their freshman year, and that is Thatcher Hurd, who in
Ooh.
2022 for UCLA, he had a 1.08 ERA and 34 innings pitched with, I believe, 9 starts, or 6 starts, I believe, and 9 total appearances. Last season, it was a little rocky. He had a 5.68. He was adjusting to the SEC, but also one of the largest problems was his command. Just completely was not where he needed it to be. It wasn't where he was his freshman season. I think having that experience, getting his toes wet in the SEC, and spending the offseason getting ready, getting prepared, knowing what it takes to pitch at that level is going to really help him. And I think this season he's going to really turn a corner and be. I mean, he's already an incredible pitcher, incredible talent, but he's up to 97, 98, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that freshman talent we saw.
Yeah, and Thatcher Hurd's got that wicked downer breaking ball where when it's a strike, he is really a mess for hitters. I mean, it's just such a nasty pitch. It's a hard pitch to throw for a strike. I would call it an adult breaking ball. Like that's a breaking ball that 25-year-olds throw, not 21-year-olds. But Thatcher Hurd can spin it. And at the end of the year, when he started to have that command of that pitch, man, it was filth. So the answer is Josh Hartle here of Wake Forest. But the like names I want to give you are like Fran O'Shell of Duke. Now he's a reliever.
Mm,
He'd have to get like 20 saves. Who knows? Danny Avidia is a name to put in your back pocket, Steven. He's kind of like a sidearm starter from Grand Canyon. He'll be I bet you he's a top 3 round pick. He led the WAC in strikeouts as a true freshman 2 years ago. He battled some lower body injuries last year, but still threw 80 plus innings. And Danny Avidia is a inner city Phoenix kid. It's a great story. That
love
that
that.
area does not produce college baseball players very often, but he's a star. But the answer is Josh Hartle. Josh Hartle is one of the reasons why Wake Forest is probably the #1 team in the country as we sit here today.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he is one of those super consistent pitchers too, where his stuff is just so good that like Tommy White, it just gets overlooked because it's like, oh, Josh Hartle did well this weekend. Well, duh. Why are you even telling me that? We all know he's going to do that. So he falls into that trap as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's man, this was fun, Stephen. Like making myself put these names down on paper. And here's the thing, like we don't even know who the surprises are yet. Like we don't even know. Like this time last year, Paul Skeens was interesting, but he wasn't Paul Skeens yet. He was just some kid that pitched and caught and hit fourth for Air Force, right? And so now we are 12 months later. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the best pitching prospect since Strasburg and Pryor. So this was fun, and there are more surprises to come.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part. The fun part, everybody's going to be like, "Oh, look how silly you were, Steve, making these predictions way back when." That is the fun part of this because it's like, "Wow, look how wrong I was." That I like to be surprised. That's a good thing.
Yep, well said. And
But
if you're an East Carolina fan, who's going to be the East Carolina fan? I challenge you. Who's going to be the East Carolina fan that books a trip to Hawaii the first weekend of Omaha? Just stick your neck out there.
I think it's going to be Bill Sucks 47.
I think you're right. I think that's right. Oh, he'll be coming for me. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
he's always on the verge. Coach Rooney, you want to take us out?
Yes. Enjoyed it, Steven. Remember, everyone, college baseball is rad. Get your merch at Steven's website. It's the perfect time, Christmas. And that's it, everybody. We will catch you next time on the Schoch Factor Podcast.